Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting to you from the Pinos Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida. I am in the Extreme Studios with the young 20-something Professor Pixel, also from the Central Florida area. Tonight, we are continuing our Season 1 review of Hannibal. Great TV show with Mads Mikkelsen in it, based off the novels, Red Dragon, all these other ones too. You guys know the movies from the 90s. And I know when we talked about episodes 1 and 2 last week, Pixel, you mentioned you really didn't have any familiarity with the books or the movies. And my initial theory is that this is basically about a love between two adult men, is the way it seems like it is to me, especially the way that things seem to be setting up for it. And while there's a lot of like gayness and like horror and stuff like that, which I have no issue with, and I think we have Hannibal being a fashionista, not just with the food, but with the way he dresses and all that. It's been a pretty interesting show, but it made me think of something we talked about as we get ready to start talking about episodes 3 and 4 tonight. When last week I mentioned something kind of a little bit of a romance between them, I couldn't help but think of a line that I think was from the not original Hannibal movie, which was actually a Michael Mann TV film, Brian Cox in the 80s, but the second one that had Jodie Foster in it, that there's a line I think in there that I remember hearing going, okay, it's a nice line, but I didn't read the book, so it didn't mean anything to me, and I keep feeling it every time we start to talk about the show. And it's someone says in the background before she meets Hannibal Lecter for the first time, oh, it's a shame what happened to what's his face, the guy we're talking about here tonight. And it's like, yeah, Will Hobbs, right, or whatever, because that's what this whole thing's about. So I know it's not going to end well for him. At least that's how it's presented or whatever. And you get the feeling that Hannibal with Will, I mean, it's just milking him along for a ride, trying to like crack him and turn him into something there. It's very manipulative, and it's very interesting, the dynamic between each. I'm wondering how that's going to change here. What's your take on where we're going here so far with this season and getting us in episode 3?
Well, I am very glad, like I said last week, I'm very glad that we checked out this series. After we had introductory episode, we had a case. It's good to have episode 3 be our kind of a buffer. Let's focus on the main characters before we get involved with another case in episode 4.
Okay.
And I especially like that because we were wondering if Abigail was with her father at that cabin, what was happening. We actually get a chance to see. At the start of this first episode, Abigail's with her father. They're out in the woods. They're hunting, and they go ahead, shoots a deer. They take it back to the cabin, and he like hands her a knife, and he's trying to show her how to take it apart. Use every part, otherwise it's murder.
I think the opening gambit here is a little interesting because I'm not a hunter, and I'm not really a fisherman. I've done a little fishing, or haven't really done any hunting. I'm not against it at all, and I know a lot of people that do it and have been raised on, from compound bow to long range shooting to all sorts of things. And what I liked about the scene is you're seeing a father-daughter situation with a bond that you don't normally get to see just in general, fathers and daughters together, right? And the thing I keep thinking about the father here, who obviously is warped, and we see the previously on Hannibal catching up here. He doesn't seem to have any malice in his heart. Like, if you didn't know what he was doing, he's just trying to bring her along, and she's having some difficulty with it, and there's some, struggle that she has with it or whatever. And the only nitpick I might have from the hunter's perspective is when she takes a shot at the deer, I think she connects, but she has to do a second one for the kill shot instead of like shooting for like the lungs or whatever, which whatever might be like a quick kill kind of thing. She aims for the head or whatever. I don't necessarily know that that's meaningful as far as the episode goes. They do show her kind of caressing the carcass a little bit, which we do see, I think, in Red Dragon with the tiger or something like that, about a woman feeling the innate power of a human being. And of course, some of the transitions in here, not just with food, but other things are pretty neat, because this is the dream that she's having as she spontaneously comes to consciousness in the hospital and has a bit of a freak out, which brings us to the credits. I liked it. So obviously you're right. She's going to be a major character, it seems here, at least of the arc, 3 episodes in out of, I think it's 10. So can't really complain about all that. And as a reminder for those that had missed the first 2 episodes so far, we do have that up here on the Extreme Movie Show. Really kind of did set up all the characters that we meet, at least for the most part here too. But after the credits roll and all that, we see which I really did like this. They showed how Will's getting up in the morning in his skivvies, his boxers, and he's out in beautiful fall weather, letting his pack of 6 or 7 dogs out, which are all adorable because they're real. They show them. And of course, Lana Bloom's there to tell him, hey, she's out of the coma. And he's like, oh, okay. And I'm telling you, bro, she's hot for him. Everybody's hot for this guy, and he has nothing about it. He's got that, man, I'm too cool for school kind of thing. So everybody's interested in him. He just doesn't pull in his cards yet. Well, it's got to move in a direction at some point here, too. So I kind of like these two because I feel like she generally cares for him. I don't necessarily mean in a hardcore romantic way, but professional person, she's definitely in love with him. Much in the same way I mentioned how he's bullied by his boss a little bit. And so now it's really kind of a love triangle, is it, between him, her, and Hannibal, at least it seems like. I like this when they go to it and they give her a scene to look professional instead of being love sore and sick with Will by having her go in and talk to her. I thought Abigail coming to consciousness and having a back and forth was just, I was leaning forward, watching it, listening to every word they say because I knew it was to mean something. I think this is a great scene.
Yeah. I like that that Jack is not hesitant about Will seeing Abigail. He really wants Will to see Abigail. It's Alana who is against it. And so, because there's always this connection between them. As she's talking, and you know that he kind of wants to go too.
Mm-hmm.
But he always has that worried expression that is across his face, like every action he does. Am I going to be the bad guy? Because he's too deeply connected. But ultimately, it's going to be Jack's way. Jack wants him to see her.
It's what I like about some of these back and forths is he bullies Will in front of Will. Basically, he's really firm with him. You know what? I think that's the right approach to take with somebody like him. So I'm not saying it's a bad thing. But here he's like, yeah, I'm concerned about it. Maybe one day you'll appreciate me as a boss and trust my respect because I have to consider the fact that she may have been helping her father kill these women. And he doesn't know what to do. But then while they're going through, Alana's not being that safe space kind of thing like she's a bleeding heart liberal. She's very concerned about the trauma with it, which is true because healing is something people don't talk about. They always talk about trauma in the other way. And then, of course, you've got them sitting across from Hannibal and basically, you know, they see him and you could tell he's crafting a plan on the fly as this develops too without, you know, pissing anybody out. Because remember, he's the new guy in the group. He's the outsider, but he's great to fit in. He's done it with everybody so far. We'll see more about it here. But she's like, hey, you know, I get it, but do you think he can handle it? And so they keep this case front and center because they go into him actually, you know, talking about this Minnesota strike case, if you will, and it's basically like a replay of our stuff here too. And it's funny because you're going, well, shit, you know, you got to think Hannibal's the one that killed the last body there that doesn't fit the others. How can he get his way out of it? So he's still figuring out how to cover his friggin' tracks, and he's still interested in this guy and the way he stares at him. I'm like, this is great because he says, did he ingratiate himself in your life? Does Hobbs knows his copycat as he knew his own? And you just see Hannibal without blinking, staring at him. So the way they edit this, cutting back and forth with the language that you're using, should be front and center on everybody on how it's emphasizing these emotional undercurrents. It's so prevalent to me. It's something you don't always see in television shows, I think, too.
Yeah. I do want to go ahead and talk about our next recurring cast member, which is Miss Freddie Lowndes.
Mm-hmm.
Because when eventually Jack says Will needs to go ahead and see her, gotta get it done. Freddie Lowndes is already there talking with Abigail, and she's like, well, I want some information. Can you tell me? And Abigail, you know, like for a girl who's been through some shit, she's very put together. Like,
she is so smart here.
Absolutely.
Freddie doesn't see it, but it's like almost like a replay with different with just a different woman in here. So you can see where Freddie's kind of like the bad girl, almost trying to do good sometimes, whereas Alana's the professional one trying to stay professional. And so they're both ripe for manipulation.
Yep. But they don't go too far before the door opens, and right as Freddie is saying, they have somebody working with them named Will, and he's able to think about the mind of killers and get into them because he's insane. Right as the door opens, and then they tell her to get out of it. She does. The scene with after that, where we get Will alone-ish, talking to Abigail, kind of just sitting there, and just to go ahead and try to talk to her. I feel like when Will is talking about Abigail outside of it, you feel that near obsession building. But I actually don't really, I almost don't feel it when he's in the room with her.
Well, it's the professional versus the personal. And where do you draw the lines, right? Yeah. So he's pissed because he's basically being called insane, because he is. He literally is. He is socially awkward, doesn't make eye contact. They made a thing of it too, lest we forget that. So there's that one thing where you say, water seeks its own level, it takes one to know one sort of thing. Birds of a feather flock together. All these euphemisms out there has to do with psychological visibility. And we saw that basically when he shoots the killer at the end of episode 1, which happens to be the father, that did it outwardly from when we saw him in those scenes, even including this episode, show anything that might break what we'd consider conventional emotional norms. He's a father, he's married, he's got a daughter, but he just now does a sick thing and we don't know why. So, does the apple fall far from the tree? Is it genetic? Is it a combination? Has she been sexually abused? Because that's the biggest early form of trauma that people have outside of physical abuse. And, it's physical, but it's also mental. And then again, Hannibal's the one that's manipulating stuff here, and he's just sitting here watching what's going on, trying to find a way to jump in there and guide this scenario to whatever outcome he wants. And so, even though they both say they feel a great deal of personal responsibility for her because of what they have, it does seem legitimate and genuine for both of them too. It's the thing with psychological visibility that I thought was interesting in the 2 scenes now with Abigail that confirms this to me, that I think she's probably guilty, is that you could say somebody that's gone through trauma is not in the right mind, so are they, but we don't have a baseline, right? That's one thing psychologists always do, whether it's lie detection or whatever your personality is. You get a baseline on somebody watching them, then you do your tests or whatever. But what it is you offer somebody some information, like you said, how's it going, Rob? And I said, oh, it's going pretty good. I blah, 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 blah. I'm giving you free information about myself. You could give a rat's ass, but the point is I'm offering up something personal. And then you sit there and say, oh yeah, me too, or I never got a chance to do that, or I never saw this TV show. Well, then you're reciprocating on an equivocal level emotionally with me, and that's how conversations start. And then the bonds of love could start forming, because sex is what attracts you here. And so there's a lot put together, I think, on the attractiveness of everybody in here, the way they dress, the way they move. They're very elegant, they're very sexy. All of them are in their own way. They're very powerful individuals. Even Jack Crawford to me is that overt masculine image out of this whole show, right? I mean, you could take all these different ones. Will's the bad boy, maybe Alana's the good girl, and so I'm looking at it in terms of sex roles, because that's what gets you attracted to somebody. But then it's the relationship part to it. And so here with Abigail twice now, not offering anything, especially when Freddie's trying to be nice, right? She's like the whore that says, oh, I don't want to be a whore anymore. And it's like, too late, you're 30 years old, you've ran through the clubs, and now no good guy wants you. And I just thought, oh my God, Abigail, she's not ugly. She's not jumping at you like a model hot, but she's attractive. But she looks like the girl next door. And she's manipulating Freddie Lowndes, and like, yeah, this chick's smart. This girl does seem like it would be Will and Hannibal's daughter. I mean, they just seem like co-parents to me. That's my feeling as they're going through here. I don't know if you feel that. I know we disagree on some stuff, but that's the vibe I'm getting at this point. That's my theory. And when I say theory, that's just how I'm seeing it.
That's interesting. I'm not convinced that Abigail actually had anything to do with the killings.
As a first watch for both of us, or at least for you, and I haven't watched it in a long time, I really don't remember, and we don't read ahead, so that's the thing we spontaneously discuss. Yep. So I think this is interesting, because I don't know either. I'm just going, oh, I'm seeing this unfold. Oh, it's beautiful. It's awesome.
I do like that they tell tell Freddie Lowndes after to buzz off, and because she's waiting for him whenever they get out of the hospital.
Yes.
And no, because it's not very smart to piss off a guy who thinks about killing people for a living. And, it's just not. And of course, post that on the website. After that, Jack gets approval to take Abigail home.
Mm-hmm.
And we get to see the house. This is where my mom died. I thought they would do a chalk outline. Well, that's only if they were still living at the time. Goodbye, Mom, she says to concrete.
Yeah.
They on the garage door, they have cannibals written there.
She's wearing a really great pea coat, just for those that care about the fashion stuff, and I think it's tremendous myself. It's very classy, and her handkerchief or her neck scarf's pretty interesting too. It goes well. Like I said, clothes that don't take the attention away from your face of really the types of patterns and color schemes that you want. And obviously they're showing everything here in the fall, right? It's getting colder now out. We're seeing a lot more fog, not nearly as much as we do during our Dark Shadows revival. I mean, those fog machines are cranked to 11, right? These are like only out of 3, but there's definitely a yellow palette to all this, which feels like fall. So make of that what you will, the transition of the seasons going into the saddest time of the year, if that matters emotionally to everybody, before it gets super dark, which would be winter. But there was a quick key scene before I just want to throw in before you continue, which is where Freddie Lowndes isn't taking them, chastising her, sitting down, because she goes to the brother of the girl that was impaled and says, I just wanted to let you know that she's out of her coma, blah, 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 and all that. So she's agitating the situation a little bit, because, you can mess with somebody and you might know what they do, but they're going to do what they're going to so she's
Are you there?
I'm here.
Okay. You were
yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Domo Arigato, Mr. Roboto there for a minute.
I said I appreciate that.
So
Abigail's in the house.
Abigail's in the house. Guess what we see? She has an old friend. Marissa Sure, who actually, there are a lot of girls in this one town that look very similar to Abigail. Because Marissa also shares this kind of look. And she goes ahead, she pulls Abigail aside. They're out there and they're talking right by this little woodland section. And do you think I did it? No, I don't think you did it. I mean, I also didn't think that your dad did that, but, well, didn't know they were capable of murder-suicide. But that's when the brother that you mentioned, thank you for bringing that up, goes ahead and pops out, I do. And yeah, this guy comes out, and obviously they feel threatened. And her best friend right there kind of like stands up, go buzz off, throws not a rock, but something at him. And only once Will and Hannibal are like walking out of the house does the guy actually back away and disappear.
Well, it is a rock, because there's a convenient 1-inch gash of blood on it, which Hannibal decides to cover up with some leaves because he's got a plan, apparently.
Oh, right.
So there's these little things that I'm like, that's so good, because you can tell that he has a plan. He just has to then go and execute it, right? Will gets one of these trippy dream sequences, basically of him basically having Abigail at the throat, like he's gonna make it all go away and stuff, and rips the throat out. And I'm like, they kind of overdo it, the dream stuff like that, which, okay, whatever. It keeps the dream trancy quality to it, because the one thing they do, they've really got the sweat machines going for this guy, because he sleeps in cold sweats like nobody I've seen on TV in quite some time. It's quite obvious. It's pretty damn cool or whatever. But then something happens. What happens?
I'm sorry, you cut out there for a minute too.
I said something happens at that point, though, after he wakes up.
After he wakes up?
Yeah. They're going to go visit the cabin.
Oh, yes. They do go visit the cabin that she's been at. Oh, he cleaned up. I always believed it was germs. And then they go ahead and start, I think it's Will who says it, starts revealing about, like, well, could you came up here a lot with your dad. Do you believe I did that? No. And then blood drips, and they go upstairs, and guess what? Marissa's already gone. Her best friend is on a rack of antlers, and she has been murdered.
Yeah. There's a line in there where he says, as they're talking about stuff because they're just by themselves, he goes, Garrett Jacob Hobbs didn't kill Cassie Boyle. And then it cuts to Hannibal and he goes, I know. Well, yeah, because he did. And he goes, Garrett Jacob Hobbs would have honored every part of her. And that's one of the things that, in case we don't know or whatever, that they remind us is that when you're a hunter, yeah, that's the whole secret pact you have with life itself, is that you do use every part of something. You do not just throw it away, let it go to waste. You eat the tenderloin and throw the rest of the meat away. No, you make glue, you make all sorts of stuff. You use everything for it, because that's the old ways. That's how you would do it. You would cull the herd that way, not overpopulate or anything, and kind of takes care of itself. And so all the hunters I've known that are old school that way, that's exactly what they believe. So it just reminded me, yeah, it doesn't fit the guy's profile that, he would do all that, like making glue, making this or whatever. And so Jack Crawford's just sort of there taking it, because that's what Jack Crawford's job is to do. He's supposed to put these guys on display, let them work through stuff, and then sit back and, let them cook, as they say, and then diagnose the path forward for them as a team. So it's moving at a decent pace, this whole episode. It's not a fast show, but there's no fluff.
Yeah. And after that, Abigail's obviously upset. And they are they go back to the house, don't they? Or do they stay at the cabin? I'm trying to.
Well, they're talking a little bit about that, and they're not quite sure about it. And that's when Hannibal offers up the fact that this guy Nicholas Boyle would have been the one that did it or whatever. So basically, he's trying to flame him. So it's interesting when they go through it, because you see Will struggling with what his gut is telling him, his internal belief, versus what the evidence is currently saying, the way the body's staged there on the stag. And then Jack Crawford he's not bullying him, and I know I've been saying a lot where he says, Will, you said it's going to be blah, 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 not whatever. And, it's a nice dynamic to observe and watch, because there's not much that Hannibal can do. But Hannibal, being a master manipulator that he is, when they're going back to the house, for example, and all the police there and all that, and the daughter that just got killed, Abigail's friend, let's say, her mom comes over, and Hannibal interjects. He's like, no, you need to go back, because Abigail's trying to bring her back. But then, of course, Freddie Lowndes is there too. And again, Freddie's not fucking around either. She's like, I've been, doing this for a long as whatever. So she's basically kind of stepping them. They're acting like they're going to be arresting her and stuff, because she was talking with Abigail when she came out of her coma a little bit, saying, well, hey, there's stuff I could fill in. But she's so eager for her story, she's not realizing that, again, she's doing all the offering in the relationship as opposed to give and take. So to me, again, these small scenes sometimes are very subtle, and especially with the way they're going about telling them. And I just like how Hannibal basically stares at her, and this last bit, the scene where Abigail's crying in her house, there's all the stuff there and all that. You see, like, there's a, pillow made out of like the skin of the deer, or like that, and all that.
And she holds it, and the words go into her mind. None of her is going to go to waste.
She opens it, and it's balls of hair from the victims.
Oh my God, that was horrible. Oh,
awesome. This is how you do a quick third act, because it pretty much ends all that, because the brother that we saw that Freddie Lowndes talked to, that showed up to him, that got hit by the rock, because he wasn't assaulting them. He was just basically, pissed. Didn't know what he was doing there. Although he wanted to say something. He's in the house with her. She's freaked out, and he's like, "Oh, kill her!" And she kind of freaks out, and he runs up to her like, "Oh, no, I didn't do it." She had the knife in her hand and just gut the guy right there. Now I can't tell if she rips it right up or whatever. And as soon as she's going up the stairs around the corner, Lana Bloom's in the house there too. What happens? Bam! Right upside the keister.
Yeah.
We see in a very quick moment there, Hannibal takes action. He knocks out Alana Bloom and says, "Abigail, I need you to trust me with blah, blah, blah. This is against my career and my life." And you're like, what the fuck? Is she's literally got blood in her hands, Alana's knocked out. She's like, she'll be all right. This is how you move it forward. Take it fair, sir.
Yeah. So Hannibal at once going ahead. I guess something other than the fact that she was down there like alerted him. Maybe he got a touch or something. Knocks out Alana, and what happened? And he's and she's like, "Oh no, I didn't mean to do it." And he goes ahead.
And he's like, "Was he?"
Yeah, was he? And he's basically saying, "Well, they're going to think you butchered him. They're going to think that you did this." So now we're left with two options. We can go ahead and go tell the police, or we can hide the body. Yeah, dark shit.
I love it. I mean, it's like
It's
like
so
the way
great.
they choose to write some of it is good for the characters because I mean, it's the guy wasn't gonna kill her. I mean, of course, everyone sits there and say, "Well, you really don't know that. You can't say that. You weren't there, and you never know in that situation. So you got to play it safe." And I'm not knocking that at all. But the thing is they clearly show from his sternum up to his stern, as they say, from the belly up towards the top of his chest. You can see where it's gut. And he goes, "This isn't self-defense, Abigail. You butchered him." She's like, I didn't. And she's like in shock, like she really doesn't believe that she did. And he's like, "You're right. They'll see what you did, and they don't just say you'll be an accomplice." He goes, "And they'll see you as an accessory to the crimes of your father." So it's not you're an accessory. There's a little bit of flourish to the delivery and the extra choice of words that sounds so great when he's like, "I can help you if you ask me to," because again, there's manipulation, but all best manipulation is a choice. As they say, if you're a religious person, some people have this religious idea that the devil can't create anything new. He can only manipulate through lies, and that's why he only goes after everything that's creative because, hate can't create anything, can only destroy. He's like, "I can help you if you choose to, at great risk to my career and to my life." And so she doesn't have to say yes. And he knows that, but he knows she's going to probably anyway. And of course, he could always kill her, right? And he's like, "You have a choice," because choice is empowerment. He says, "You can tell them you're defending yourself when you gutted this man," because that's exactly what she did, but she didn't know it. Or he goes, "Or we could hide the body." I'm like, "Fuck yeah, let's do it. Let's make this even darker. This is good shit right here." I love it. And she's like, "Oh my God, really?"
Yep. And she's just at that point aboard. Afterwards, outside, we get Alana waking up in an ambulance. "Oh, well, all I remember is like a flash of something in the corner of my eye, and I was knocked against the wall, and then Hannibal was attacked from behind, and then and now he's gone. Where could he be? He must have gotten away." She scratched him. That's all we have. But there's also that rock that you mentioned. There's trace of his DNA in the body that they had of Marissa. And then we get Hannibal back at home, back in his office, and Abigail suddenly she arrives. She's there, and she jumped the wall at the hospital and came right over, and she says that she knows it was him who called her father just before they came down to get her, get him. Mm-hmm. And she's kind of trying, and he gives these half answers of like, "Well, I mean, I could go ahead and warn it. Maybe you could call it a lapse of judgment. There's something to tell." And she says that she'll keep his secret because he'll keep hers. And that's the end of that episode.
Yeah, because she has an emotional conundrum. So she says, I didn't honor any part of him. So is it murder? And he basically doesn't answer yes or no. He takes it in the direction he wants to, which is, back and forth a conversation. And he goes, most would argue self-defense, meaning implying, of course, that they know the truth. So he's not judging her for it. And that's the whole judgment-free thing when you're having a conversation. That's why I wanted to mention earlier the whole psychological thing about giving and taking when people have conversations. And, it's like a stray, you feed it, it's going to start coming back to you if you start giving a certain kind of attention. So he knows what her needs are. So that's why he's in control. And it reminds me of the old expression when it comes to animals that you have to be smarter than the dog to train it. So you can have a dog, feed it, blah, 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 but they wonder why it doesn't do this and that. And you just really don't understand the psychology of it. And it's different if you have cats and all that. But it's a clear indication to me of, it's not just Will Graham that's collecting strays right now. He's got her, but like I say, they do seem like a couple bringing up like co-parenting a daughter. But I'm curious as to what Hannibal's interest is in her, other than to fuck over Will Graham or be their kid. I really don't know, but it's clearly a very family type setup. I think that they're going towards. So, and he basically sees a couple steps ahead, even though he's making these plans on the fly, which is kind of interesting. Good way to close, because this is a very kind of patient episode till the very end, and it's good. And she's wearing a scarf, of course, too, because she's got a throat slit or like that. And she's like, "You're glad I killed him." And he's like, "Well, what would be the alternative? That he kill you?" And she's like, "Well, I don't know if he was going to." And he goes, "No, you don't." But she does, Yeah, and you're right. You're the one that called the house. You talked to my dad before. Women are much better understanding these voices than men are too. It has to do with them and babies when they're one and all that. And she's like, "What'd you say to him?" And he goes, "It was just a simple conversation, ascertaining if he's the one there in the interview." So that's plausible deniability, even though he's completely obviously lying to her. So yeah, great way to finish an episode, to make you go, all right, they're going even deeper. They have not established the full length of where the setup is. So far, we think we might have seen all the characters so far. I don't know too many new ones here, but that brings us to episode 4. Any final thoughts before you take us into 4?
No, I'm going to slip us right into there, because let's start with dead bodies.
Let's do it.
We see a family. All these pictures, all these nice things, but someone's covered in blood. And what do we find? We find this family has been murdered, seated around this table, and like their faces in the food. And Will uses his super metronome powers to picture the scene, and he's narrating it all to himself. "I have made these plans. These are my family values." And actually, that's what he says when Jack shows up. And what are you thinking about? Because this is all in his head. He doesn't say any of this out loud, because then they would think he's crazy. But he says, "No, family values. Whose?" Apparently, there are 2 families that have been just like this. The mother's always killed last. And that's our case to focus upon. Meanwhile, we have Abigail and you were talking about the scarf and everything.
Yeah.
Abigail starts this episode putting on a scarf. "I can hide my wound and try to fit in." And you have Alana telling her, "Well, our wounds go ahead and they help define us. Like it's not something that you really just want to hide. It's something that's a part of you and you have to face."
Yeah, it's interesting because kind of right here, the opening gambit, it's previously on Hannibal, and you get, kind of just added up a little bit more. So, we know there's a nice little setup here, but you get a little bit of the, oh yeah, as a reminder, Hannibal is actually a psychologist of Will, which I guess Will is being forced to go to him. It's not clearly, I think, stated, or if so, I kind of don't recall it, but he has to see him and all that. I guess he's trying to psych profile him. And really, you have to go through that when you go through like a shooting or like that, even though he's been rubber stamped and cleared. I do think that when Hannibal's here, he's acting in the role of psychologist, even though he's using it to his own purposes. Whether they're good or bad, we'll find out, I suppose. So they're going back and reaffirming a couple real quickly some of the scenes that we've seen before, which I think's a smart thing to do, since this was a weekly drop back when it came and was released on regular TV rather than everything was dropped at one time. I think that's a smart thing to do. It gets you back into the emotional tone and flow of the show, what's going on, with just add a little bit too. I Will basically is upset with himself because he feels like he was kind of becoming them the more pissed he gets. And it's like, that's interesting because normally he played kind of a somewhat passive guy, but the more he's getting in touch with that bloodthirst and violence of him, the more I think it really turns on Lecter, at least emotionally. Yeah, the whole thing, again, I don't think of this as a religious show in that sense, even though there's certainly a lot of symbolism going on. Just there could be a lot of stuff. But to your point, those super metronome powers here. We mentioned it was the fall in the last episode. It's getting towards the holiday season. What do holidays do? They like to have a nice big bird or a ham or something around the table because who sits down for the afternoon dinner, right? So that's just kind of like analogous to that's the only time of the year in the fall when people might sit down at Thanksgiving, let's say, and be quote unquote a family. And that's, like I say, more of these family type structures that they're kind of showing or whatever. I gotta admit, I'm getting kind of a little tired of him doing his soliloquy about, of stuff and everybody sitting there, but it's important and it's a decent spread. I don't know. It's just, the more Will talks, the more I'm like, yeah, I like it better when you're almost crying all the time and not talking. No, it's just, you just got to be careful with that, though. Sometimes you can overdo a little bit. Otherwise, it goes into camp, and they've done a great job of this. I didn't know if this was going to be completely unrelated to what we've seen before with Abigail and everything else there too. I don't know that, but the thing that kind of was cute to me was the fact, and this is disgusting in a way. No matter what was going on here at this family thing where the bodies were dead, we'll see more of that and all that. Again, I like the fact that Will's got a bunch of stray dogs and they're being counted on, not as a focal point of the show, but just to remind you it's a psychological thing he has. They all sleep together in the same room. They are a pack. That's where he feels safe. So this is so creepy yet funny to me. Because he's out on assignment, Hannibal goes to Will's house there in Wolf Trap, which, again, think of the name, Trapping Wolf, Wolf Trap. I don't know the significance of Wolf Trap, other I'm sure it's near Quantico, but, we're an animal strapped. That just popped in my head. But I love how he just goes in there quietly, assuredly, and he's feeding all the dogs the sausages, which is probably humans or not. And then he's going around and he's investigating. He's basically, as a psychologist, saying, okay, I want to learn more about Will by looking at his house. He does the fly fishing thing or whatever it is, and the dogs seem to like him. And, it's true what they say. Ace Ventura should have taught you this. Dogs really can't sense evil. But no, I just thought these are the nice little touches that I like with the show, not just the way they dress, but stuff that is important. And we got to remember that if you don't know about Hannibal's background growing up, it's really fucking dark and darker than you think, even with the family stuff. So I won't even mention that here. So for him to go from where he is and survive what he has to have a sense of culture, it's almost understandable that he gets really, really turned off by rudeness and impoliteness, and he has a sense of taste. Like when the one client kept putting the tissue on the desk. Remember that, and how he was looked down and it really triggered his ass. I'm like, that's got to come into play later. It may not, but still. But yeah, I mean, obviously it was an upscale, middle class to upper class kind of thing there too. And the whole thing about her with the scar, her taking it off. I wanted to ask you, now that I had mentioned the whole thing about putting it on or taking it off, what do you think she should do?
What do I think she should do?
Yeah.
With her scar?
Yeah, should she show it or should she hide it?
Oh, I mean, I would hide. If I had a scar on my neck, I would wear scarves. Then again, if I lived anywhere that wasn't Florida, I would probably wear scarves because scarves are cool.
Yeah, it's interesting because Alon is here too, and I go, well, is she kind of like, what if this is a heterosexual relationship? Is this really the proofing out the mommy part to maybe possibly Will having a wife here? Because they're kind of talking adult life and girl stuff here. She's like, well, how did that make you feel? And she's like, I wanted to go home. This is where Lana kind of senses that she's a hell of a lot smarter than she's letting on, and she's kind of just trying to listen and let her do it. But you can see Abigail basically almost getting her to play like the big sister, talking about like support groups and stuff like that. I like this exchange because Alana's not stupid, but she's a woman. And so a woman is going to, no matter what profession, she's going to come at it from a certain perspective. And I think this is the right track. We're seeing Abigail being hit at by adult men, grown women, all professionals in their fields and everything too. And then she goes to see Hannibal. And Hannibal's got a really nice outfit on here too. He's got the jacket off it. He's got the vest on and all that too. And she's like, "You want to have a beer?" And he smiles. So, what this scene that's getting ready to come up in your mind? What is significant, sir?
Oh well, I mean, I like that they have this moment together, but really, she wants Hannibal to stay away. She's worried about Hannibal getting too close to Abigail Hobbs and trying to fill in a father kind of role, and needs to let her go ahead on her own to develop.
I defer.
And what does
it he says? Because he basically is making her feel important by letting her believe that. Because what is it he says in here with the depression thing? There's a great line in here. I gotta look at my fucking notes. Where is it? Something like I defer to. I defer my esteem to that of my esteemed colleague or whatever like that. Because she's right. She has a legitimate point here. She's not whining. She's talked with her several times. It's realistic. It's believable. She should be there. And she needs confidence, from doing it the right way. I defer to the passion of my esteemed colleague. He's charming her. This is good stuff. And she's trying not to buy it, but you can tell she almost likes it. I like it. It.
No, I do too.
And she has a beer, which is not upper class.
That's
right?
But
he has wine, which is.
Yeah, but what does he do right after she tells him to let her be, needs time to develop? He checks her out of the hospital. Yep. Takes him to his home. They have a discussion. Oh, here, I made this. You should go ahead and have this. Are you giving me drugs? And he's like, well, that's my home prescription. And she drinks his tea and she starts tripping as Hannibal is cooking her a meal. And I can't help but think that he just really wants to feed her. Oh, we totally skipped over the fact that Jack has dinner with Hannibal again.
I was saying, Mel, you really jumped ahead there. I was like, wait a minute. Yeah.
Because wasn't it like the beginning of the episode? But okay.
So the thing is like they're jumping to stuff. So really, they keep going back to the FBI room where they have the bodies to move the current storyline. Whether it's embedded or not, we'll find out. And they're trying to figure out stuff. And they're talking about defensive wounds. And they mention how who can maybe do it. And the only one that has any intuition about it is when he says, "Who could do this?" And Will's like, "A mother." And then he gets a sinking feeling because we've talked about fathers, right? And I just mentioned how Lana's almost acting like a big sister or maybe like a mommy. And now the episode that they're investigating has to do with maybe a mommy because we don't really know. I mean, we just know there's there. So I thought that was interesting because there's a little bit of Will also, again, talking with Hannibal about stuff. Basically saying, yeah, I think you'll have a lot, see that we all have a lot in common together. She's demonstrated an aptitude for the psychological and, they're having a discussion literally about family. Like it's an ill-fitting suit, he says. I've never connected to the concept. So I'm telling you, this is like a whole thing. And then even Hannibal says you created a family of yourself and, of strays, because remember, he fed, he's feeding the dogs. And so they're bonding here. But again, it's all the fleshing out of, are they going to form what society normally wants of you, which is a functional household, which usually means, husband and wife, the family aspect of it. How are you define that? But again, Hannibal stirs it to the Turner family, the people that murdered, and so they do some stuff, and he uses it to find some background about Will being poor and everything too. And this is where, again, he's so good at letting people volunteer the information, because what information they do it, why they do it, is important, even if they don't know it. So they cut from that to your point. What's a motherly thing to do? Have somebody sit down and feed them. And here you see Jack Crawford, which I think in a scene here where he's trying to find stuff out, I love the fact that Jack's, I don't know if it's ego, but he's so serious and like with Will, right? Like I always say, he bullies him, but he's giving him the harsh treatment. He's like the father figure. He's got a bit of what I like to call hubris, a little bit of pride here. He loves the fact that somebody can entertain him this way. It's a little arrogant, I think, on his part, although he doesn't come across as a complete asshole because he treats, I think he treats Hannibal as like an equal, somebody that can understand somebody in my important position as head of the FBI. And he treats him okay if you think of him at that level. But that's what I'm saying. I don't think he thinks of Will as being a professional on his level. And so he works under him. He's not a co-worker. He's a subordinate. And so I think that's the thing Fishburne does really well to here is those power dynamics between people of you clearly know what he likes and what he favors. And that's the whole thing that's going on there while they're having dinner.
Yeah. And they'll touch upon right at the end. We do go. We'll focus on Abigail before we talk about the actual case. Abigail, taken to the house, making dinner. She's on drugs, and ultimately, Alana goes ahead and ends up going over to Hannibal's place, very upset, because Abigail's out, and so like she knocks on the door once in, and Abigail says, "Well, he went ahead and he understood her wishes, but he did it anyway."
Yeah, he made a choice.
Yeah, he made a choice. She was having something, so he gave her half a Valium. That's what he says. But Alana then is led into the next area, the dining room, where it looks like Abigail's expecting her. And oh no, she's just there. And they sit down, and Hannibal kind of looks at her and asks, "What do you see?" After a moment, and like she's still on drugs, but her eyes, they flash, and she sees her parents, and then it's them again, and she says, "Family."
Yeah, I mean the whole mother part of all this too is the hot Asian comes in there that's also hot for Will. Basically,
Oh,
some
right.
ballistics got a match, and it was something having to do in Bangor, Maine, and you see that was like a couple of years ago, whatnot. So what I liked here was the fact that we're talking about family a lot in this episode. It's basically just saying that okay, this is driving the narrative forward. So it's a little convenient writing. It's kind of weak to me, but it does what it needs to do. It pushes it along. And I actually like seeing this lady with these two kids buying them stuff like that. And then if you're not fully aware of it, which I think that you are, but just watching it, she's abducted them. And somehow as a mom, she's able to convince these kids to leave with her. That's the scary, frightening thing about it, right? Because again, the case parallels what's going on here with the professional group here. And it is interesting seeing a family thing where Hannibal's, cooking and trying to involve her, and then he involves her in some psychedelics, which psychedelics is a whole nother conversation we'll probably have, because that really was, especially from the government, something that would put in. And the stuff he's had from mushrooms is one of the first things way back in the day. So all these mind altering things had the reasons, but people do believe in microdosing of LSD and all sorts of things. But you're right. She's tripping. And what does she see? Family. So I mean, it's the only thing really with the regular case there, because I think they didn't really balance the case versus the professional stuff. Where it feels a little kind of forced in some areas is that they have basically the big scene at the end where they get a hit, and then there's a raid on the house where she's out there with the kids, and so they get the SWAT thing out there. This is the only time it ever looks super professional, right? Where the kid's standing by the pool or whatever, and these kids got the fucking gun, and you're like, don't shoot, because whatever. And then I think, what is it? One of the guys, she's got the gun on the kid. The kid had the gun. Will goes to put the gun down, but then I think gets clipped by one of the people there. Is that by the hot Asian? I mentioned that because I'm wondering if that's going to matter later, because she's obviously not just an FBI person there. She's going to have, I think, some more significance there because she moves the boy off and all that too. But Yeah, it was a simple way to tie in what could have been maybe another 2 or 3 episode arc with the missing kids, but it's there to serve for the whole point about family. But yeah, I do like how Alana here at the end, though, to your point, and we can finish up with this here. It's pretty much just the end of the episode about her and Hannibal getting into it, where he apologizes to her and just says, "I'm sorry." And she's like, "Rude. It's shockingly rude." You know, he's like, "You have every right to be upset with me over stuff my bounds." So he's owning it. He's handling it well. And she's like, "Where is she?" "In the dining room." This is where his show's got some some humor to it, because it's a nice little, breakfast for dinner kind of spread, and she's got that dopey grin on her face because she's high as fuck. I do like a good breakfast for dinner, by the way, sir. But who's at the table with her? Do you remember?
No.
These her parents.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying.
But it goes back to Alana and Hannibal.
And she
You don't
says
see
family.
Will there.
Yeah.
Right. So is that significant later? I don't know.
We're going to have to wait and see. Yeah, sadly, I think that the case for this one having to do with the mother, it's weak. It's fine. It exists. Everything else is what matters more.
The last scene here I just want to mention is where you got Jack Crawford in bed with his glasses, his middle-aged man, his wife's going to bed.
Actually, wait, because Jack has a scene with the kid after they shoot.
Go ahead. Yeah, you're right.
And he basically tells him, you're gonna, you're not off the hook here. You came here to kill your family. That's not a normal thing. And he's like, I wasn't going to do it. And he's like, well, you can start spending your life going ahead and trying to prove that, or not trying to prove it, trying to convince people of that. But it's going to take a while.
Well, it shows him outside of his professional boundaries that we've seen so far, right? By actually sound like a pretty damn good dad or grandfather to this kid, even though the kid's a fuckhead and probably was going to shoot and kill people, which is, how they got a beat on him and all that, because the mommy was convincing the kids to do that, that way they could be psychologically scarred, with the trauma that she's forcing them to go through, so they would be bonded to her. That's how those things work, right? And then, at the end there where he's in bed reading with his wife's come to bed, he's got his half, she's got her half, classical family kind of thing. She looks totally disinterested. And she goes, do you think it's a little too late to have kids? And it's like affecting, like he's really thinking about it, like, interesting. There's the family thing again too. So yeah, overall, I think I liked this episode more than the third one, but I also think it had some higher spots, but some lower spots as well. So it was a bit up and down. Third one was a bit routine and all that, but I felt like this one picked up some pace, because we definitely see the dynamic, I think, clearly now 4 episodes in out of 10 of this family situation that's going on, and what is Hannibal up to by getting her, and what's his end goal? How is he going to fuck Will Hobbs? I mean, my God, I don't know. Or is he not going to? Is he going to try to make him fall in love with him? I really don't know. I know it sounds weird, but I mean, it's very clear to me that there's these very strong undertones here. That's what the show's about to me. It's not about the killings. It's not about whatever. It's about creating this fucked up family dynamic. What about you? What do you think after these 4 episodes?
No, these last 2, they were good. 4 is sadly weaker for me. I liked 3 more, just because we're focused on our characters, and if anything, the mother side plot was just a distraction.
Well, maybe they'll lean into fathers in the next episode because of the taste we got here. So it'll be interesting to see while this takes place here. And obviously with 3 seasons, I think the third one ended up being on Netflix after 2 got canceled, because it's a great show. It's very artsy. It's very moody, but it's one that you literally have to watch. To me, you have to listen to it for the dialogue, and then you have to see how they're blended together. I think that's what makes the show. And if you're just like half listening to it, it won't make sense. And you're like, okay, why does he do this and that? It's not about that. And that's the thing that immediately struck me about it, that made me go, oh, this is not your ordinary show. You really have got to pay attention. So really liking it so far. And I'm looking forward to when we go to do episodes 5 and 6 here on the Extreme Movie Show. I'd like to thank everybody for listening. It's been a pretty popular stream for us. I appreciate everybody retweeting it out so people know that we exist here on the Extreme Movie Show. If you've got any particular TV shows you'd like us to consider in the future, let us know, as well as movies. And RDV, Professor Pixel, and myself here, Rob, your host, will take that into strong consideration, because what's better than to talk about something we enjoy watching? Or if we don't like it, we can tell why and have a conversation about it. So Professor Pixel, RDV, everybody here at the Extreme Movie Show, good night now.
Good evening.